Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Canadiens. And in today's show, the Canadiens finally traded for a goaltender. Is he any good? Ben Chiarot goes on IR, and we're a little bit concerned, and it is the return of 3 up and 3 down.
You're Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 552 of Locked On Canadiens, and we are brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. I am one of your hosts. I am Scott Metla, and I'm joined, as always, by the incomparable active stick, Laura Saba. Laura, it was not a great results weekend for the Montreal Canadiens, but they did some things and some stuff that it's, I guess, a net positive a little bit, maybe.
I think it's a lot of positive, actually. I know it's not wins, and I know it's not completely a huge turnaround from before, but the 3 games that they played this weekend were a lot better than any game they've played in the last, I don't know how many months. And at the same time that you're listening to this, I am also on Locked On NHL talking about the coaching change in Montreal. So please check out that episode. But Gil Martin asked me, what would you consider a success now with this coaching change? And I think daily habits, in-game habits that I'm noticing from the team, from each player, that's what I'm going to take as a success. And obviously against the Buffalo Sabres, you got to remember the afternoon games, like even the good Canadians weren't good at that. Afternoon games are not their strong suit. Back-to-backs are not really. It's understandable that they'd be tired. Yes, they did get Jeff Skinnered. That's completely as well. Like, you have to admit all of those things. But I think, if you take moments and moments, it was a lot less of an abject disaster than it usually is. And the conversations are getting a lot more pointed from the post games. And when you're talking to the players, they're not naming names or anything like that, but you can very much tell that they feel that they have the tools that they were lacking leading up to now. It's too late to save the season, but honestly, yes, it's 3 losses. And I'm not upset at all. We want this team to get a high draft pick. I think that the team has, against Columbus at least, deserved a win, especially for Samuel Montembeault. But the team that you're looking at on the ice is so much better than it used to be. There are times when they are ahead in expected goals for, which I went back and looked at the charts. It's been a while since that has happened. And it's not just that. To me, I'm looking at this and I'm like, they're dominating for stretches of the game. When's the last time we saw that? Usually you would see them not just be dominated, but be dominated by a high, huge margin. This is a breath of fresh air. I know it's not wins. And this is the thing. They haven't actually had time to gel with this coach. They've had 1 practice, 3 games, and really awkward schedule as well with those early games. There's no real time to really spend time if you're the coach, if you're if you're the team, to have meetings and review and talk to each player and review that much video, the time that you have. I really think that such a huge turnaround in such a short amount of time is attributable to the little things that Martin St. Louis is trying to instill in his team. And he himself took blame. I know, Scott, we have so much to talk about, but I just want to say something, because after the game on Saturday, he was asked late in his press conference, against the Capitals, your shots, you were allowing shots from less dangerous areas. It seemed to be that against Columbus, you were allowing shots from really risky, dangerous, high danger areas, whatever you want to call it. But you know what I mean? The quality of the shots that they allowed to the Blue Jackets were a lot better than the quality of shots that they allowed to the Caps. And he literally, the first thing he said is, that's something that you can blame on me, because I was trying to teach the players, or trying to get them to focus on this one aspect of their play that obviously we haven't had time to do a more well-rounded job. But that I wanted them to focus on that, and I was happy for them to focus on, I can't remember what it was specifically, the concept that he was trying to teach them, but whatever it was, that's what he wanted them to focus on. So he acknowledged that was what made their defensive game kind of be a little less tight against Columbus than it was against the Caps in the second and third periods that we're talking about. So I can't say enough about this. I know the honeymoon is going to be over soon. I know it's going to wear off. If the team continues to get losses to continue to get losses, just like this is a 10-game losing streak, right? It's not a good positive result, but the process itself is getting better. And I think that's the intention of Gorton and Kent Hughes, is that they know it's a lost season. They would probably prefer to have a higher draft pick and get that star. So them seeing improvements in the process, in the habits, in the demeanor, in the way that the team plays overall, no matter who you throw in there, I think for me that can be considered a success. And I think that that's going to result in Martin St. Louis, if it continues on this trajectory, getting a head coaching job. I'm still not 100% sold on a guy with zero experience becoming a head coach, but I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. I mean, every little thing, the players are playing differently, they're speaking differently, and that to me means that improvement is on the horizon. And I hope I'm right.
Yeah, I do too. And I meant to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that happened this weekend, but we'll slide that as we go here. But the games were watchable. And I know that's not an exceedingly high bar to cross to have quality hockey here, but the games were watchable for the first time in months. They got smacked by the Capitals. Yes, that's true. But they played well. Like, you could see things in motion and happening with that. And it was the same thing against the Blue Jackets somewhat. I didn't get a chance to watch that game. I was at a wedding. And then against the Sabres, you could see thought processing and what they're trying to do here. And I think that's the most important part, is they're playing like they have some kind of purpose. Are they still very good? Not yet. You don't give up 4 goals to Jeff Skinner in 2022 if you're very good. But I'm seeing the process, and he seems to be making it fun for them. Ryan Palin mentioned that after their game against Buffalo, is that, yes, losing, at least that's a huge, huge thing for a lot of others, is what kind of fun are you having if you're just losing and it's not close and it's not competitive or anything like that? So I am really hoping that they get some wins here, build on some things. I know we want them to lose, but lose scrappy, don't just go down without a fight kind of thing. So the team now, though, is going to look a little bit different. There are 2 roster transactions we got to touch on coming up in our next segment. There is a new goalie, one of the trade pieces on the IR, and that's all coming up next. But first, if you follow the show, we love Built Bar. It is past New Year's resolution. If you're going to the gym, you're going back to work, you're working from the office again, stock up on Built Bar. They are ideal for whenever you need them. Have them in the morning on your way out the door. Have them as a midday snack. Have them after your workout. Have them as a dessert. They are covered in 100% real chocolate. They are low in carbs, low in calories, high in protein. They are absolutely everything that you're going to want in your protein bar. And there is a flavor for everybody. And for this month, there's white chocolate cookies and cream. Brand new. Built Bar is always updating their flavors. And if you go to built.com and use promo code LOCKED15, you're going to get 15% off your order. So please go check them out. Find what flavor suits you. There's fruit, there's chocolate, there's dessert. Like I said, there's something for everybody. That's built.com and promo code LOCKED15. And as always, when you are done making us your first listen of the day, please check out the Locked On NHL Olympic Recap. They are crushing it. Everything you need to know about the women and men's tournaments going on right now. A lot of upsets, a lot of good games. They have you covered on the Locked On NHL feed. It finally happened. We've been waiting and begging, and we've talked about it on this show for what feels like a month now. The Montreal Canadiens have finally added a new goaltender to the organization. This came down February 12th was Saturday. So Saturday morning, the Canadiens traded Brandon Baddock to the Minnesota Wild for goaltender Andrew Hammond. And if you will remember properly, the Hamburglar was the 2015 Ottawa Senators darling, who led them on that insane run all the way to the playoffs. He lost like once or twice over the course of the regular season. Hammond was playing with the Iowa Wild in the AHL. He had a .908 save percentage and a 2.44 goals against in 11 games. Nothing spectacular. He's not going to be a season savior, but it allows Cayden Primeau to go down to the AHL where he is more suited and gives the Canadiens basically cannon fodder that they don't have to worry about developing at this point. And It's not flashy. They didn't have to give up anyone really of note. Brandon Baddock is an AHL bottom sixer with the urge to punch people a lot. His last action for the Canadiens organization, however, was scoring a goal against the Syracuse Crunch on Friday night. Seems like one of those, good locker room guys, but at the same time, you needed a goalie and you didn't give up any of your defensemen, any of your forward, any of your high-end forwards, I guess I should say. So it's not the worst thing in the world, and it's Andrew Hammond. He's not going to set the world on fire, but I'm just grateful that they actually added somebody at this point.
I agree with you. I think literally all they needed was to be able to send Cayden Primeau back to the AHL and stop having him face those shots when he's lacking the confidence. And the Canadiens are giving up a lot of shots. And to their credit, too, man, all of the players are saying that they're not playing better in front of him. Even Martin St. Louis acknowledging that, they're not playing better in front of the goaltenders. They do need to play better in front of the goaltenders. And that's something that the team as a whole needs to focus on. But it doesn't matter now if you have a world-class play in front of Cayden Primeau. His confidence is so shot that every mistake is going to haunt him and compound it. And as we can see with Jeff Petrie, I know we don't really want to talk too much about the Jeff Petrie discourse right now, but it's in a situation where you can't do anything right. It seems like your mistakes are multiplied, and often it's like you're trying too hard or you're too in your head or whatever. And the last couple of games, Jeff Petrie's made some glaring mistakes that people keep slamming, and he hasn't had a good season. And no matter what he's trying right now, whatever it is, it's not working. And so, you can't really sit a guy like Jeff Petrie. You can't, like, I think that's the ideal situation for him until they find a trade partner, which I'm sure they're looking for. But you need to sit him. He needs a break. He needs a change of scenery or something like that. And Cayden Primeau, you have the luxury of sending him back to the AHL where he has been good in front of a team that is much better than the NHL team. And that hopefully is going to get his confidence back. So really you needed a body you could throw in there because Samuel Montembeault also is not at 100%. He said that he needs some rest in order to continue to recover. Andrew Hammond, I don't like anything Sens related, and he brings the Sens fans a lot of joy. So I'm getting a little bit of a kick of the fact that now he's a Montreal Canadien. But I do think that this is gonna allow the Habs to just allow Cayden Primeau to go get the what he needs, the change of scenery, if you will, the practice, the confidence boost that he needs, and all he needs to do really is be in goal. Like nobody's expecting him to win all the games from here on in.
Yeah, and the funny part about this is that you're talking about Jeff Petrie and maybe needing a break. Unfortunately for the Canadiens, they cannot do that now because before the game against the Sabres, Ben Chiarot was put on IR. They said he's going to be out about a week, and Corey Schueneman was recalled from the Laval Rocket. He played 3 games in 3 days across the AHL and the NHL. Got an assist on, I believe it was Mike Hoffman's goal against the Sabres, and they're light on defensemen right now. There's Sami Niku in the AHL, and there's Louis Belpedio and Xavier Ouellet. So they have bodies in the AHL. They're going to recall people. But at the same time, I don't see them making a change to a Rocket team that is currently thriving. They swept games against Syracuse this week. It was they had a 6-2 win, a 5-1 win, and a 2-1 overtime win. It was a real solid week for that, and I don't think Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton want to mess with that when the Rocket have kind of come out of the bottom of the division. They're sitting third comfortably in the playoff chase right now. They're doing it with Kevin Poulin putting on an extremely good performance, and all credit to him. Cayden Primeau is going to get the net back when he gets there, but Kevin Poulin has been extremely good for the Rocket. And I think to assuage some of the fears that Ben Chiarot's injury is considered minor. He did play almost 24 minutes, I believe, while being injured. And this was just hey, we have bodies, just go rest. It's fine. And then we'll get on with things here. So I'm not too worried. I don't think it's going to hamper his trade value. And maybe some rest will do him a little bit of good as well. They don't play for another couple days. So I'm not overly worried about Ben Chiarot being on IR. Though if Canadiens doctors are wrong and, he's day-to-day turns into, he's week-to-week turns into, he's out for 2 months now, then maybe we'll reassess this. But I wouldn't worry too much about his his trade value heading into the trade deadline, because apparently they're up to a dozen teams calling about Ben Chiarot, and in which case I go, I don't know why you're doing that, but okay, give me your draft picks, please.
I mean, I like draft picks. I like overpayment for a Canadiens asset.
I think that's part of it, is that it's like, I don't know why people want to overpay for Ben Chiarot, but it's not really my job to figure that out. I am not an NHL general manager. And if there's a dozen teams calling, that means there's multiple packages, and that means a good GM and co, which I believe Hughes and Gorton can figure this out, we'll be able to put together a really nice package. We'll obviously, as we get closer to the trade deadline, preview what we might want from some of these teams, but there's a dozen teams interested in a guy who has 9 points and has not been very good this year. I gotta say, it could be a lot worse going on right now. And when Chiarot comes back, maybe Petrie takes a little bit of a break, because he started well in the Buffalo game, and then the wheels kind of fell off, and it got real ugly for Jeff Petrie in a hurry. And anytime now that he makes a mistake, the knives are just out for him. And I got to be honest, it's hard to watch, because he's clearly become the target for everything that goes wrong in Montreal right now. Just like when Carey Price was, the focus of this entire team, is anything that goes wrong is Carey Price's fault, or it's PK Subban's fault, or it's Max Pacioretty's fault, et cetera, et cetera. Jeff Petrie has kind of become that guy due to his contract and his status. And yes, he hasn't been very good this year, but it's not just Jeff Petrie who's become the issue here. Who knows if he'll be here past the trade deadline? There are teams calling. I guess Dallas and Detroit are interested, but man, this team's going to look very different in a couple of weeks, I think.
I would agree with that. And I think it's not, I don't want to say I'm excited to see these people go, but I'm excited to see changes, because I think that we've just been waiting for the season to be over for so long. And now I'm hoping that we get some fun play out of the young guys. Like usually when you're rebuilding, that's what you get to see is the young guys. You just let them get out there and show what they can do. And I'm excited to see what the Canadiens can get for some of these guys. And I'm also excited to see them move on to teams where they're gonna be able to play and hopefully make the playoffs and enjoy. Like there's nobody on this team where I'm just like, I want him gone. I know a lot of people want Jeff Petrie gone. There's nobody like that on this team for me. I want to see them succeed in their next markets, and I want to see the Canadiens get good value for them. And I'm excited to see the Canadiens as a whole move forward.
Yes, and like we'll see, there's a lot going to happen this week. They have some time off between games, so I'm not shocked if some things happen. More roster moving. Obviously, Andrew Hammond is now here wearing white and green pads, which is hilarious to me, wearing number 37. And Ben Chiarot will be back by the end of the week. But it is our Monday episode, and that means one thing. It's time for 3 Up and 3 Down, and that's coming up next. But first, as we said off the top of the show, we are brought to you by BetOnline, and football might be over by the time you're hearing this, but basketball is full speed ahead with both the NBA and college hoops. And for the latest odds, totals, player performance props to where the next coach is getting fired and where they're going to end up, betonline.net is the #1 spot for all your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline.net has you covered for hockey, boxing, UFC, and right into the Olympic coverage and information. So head to the website or use your mobile device to learn about the trends and the action. BetOnline, where the game starts. So it is Monday. Monday means one thing. It's time for 3 Up, 3 Down. And we never want to end on a negative, because no one wants that on their Monday. Mondays are hard enough. So let's do our 3 downs first. And I'm really trying to figure out who I want to put on my 3 down. And I know he scored against the Sabres, and it looked like he might be turning things around. Unfortunately, Jeff Petrie is on my down list. His penalty against Columbus led to the game-winning goal with just seconds remaining. And then his defensive miscues against the Sabres cost the Canadiens a game they were very much in. So for that, unfortunately, I have to put Jeff Petrie on my down list for right now.
I'm just going to agree with that. My next down is the discourse, so to speak. So in general, I don't like to criticize other media or critique other media. Like as an alternative media, as fans, we've definitely got a slant and a bias on this podcast. But I dislike the narrative that's been created with literal mainstream pieces or opinion pieces or whatever, where Cole Caulfield not saying anything about Dom Ducharme's departure, or Jeff Petrie not really saying much about him and saying that he feels better or something like that, renders them classless, because Brendan Gallagher opened his press conference saying thank you, and Tyler Toffoli had some nice words to say, but it's overblown. You don't need to call a player classless because he didn't wish somebody anything in public to the media. You don't know what happened. The player might have texted him, called him, wished him well, thanked him for what he's done, sent him positive wishes, said sorry coach or something like that. We don't have to be privy to those conversations. We don't have to be privy to that. But also, there's nothing wrong with saying that you feel better under Martin St. Louis, because if you weren't going to feel like you're playing better under Martin St. Louis, or that you have the better tools, or whatever it was that Jeff Petrie said that everybody jumped on, then there wouldn't have been a need for a coaching change in the first place. Like, we need to stop being so dense. We need to stop creating mountains out of nothing. Brendan Gallagher has been in this market for a really long time, and he knows that he needs to open his press conference by saying good things about Dominique Ducharme. Otherwise, you're going to hear a lot of crap. And that's exactly what we're hearing right now. We're hearing a lot of crap. And moreover, if you are a young player who had a phenomenal start to your NHL season, and then it's your rookie year and everybody thinks you're going to win, everybody had you, like, the odds everywhere were that he was going to win the Calder. People were even talking about him scoring 40 goals. And when your coach screws up your season to a point where all he needed to do was not be there for you to score 3 goals, where one was called back in 2 games, not 3 games, in 2 games, I don't think you owe that coach anything. I think, and we don't need to hear what Cole Caulfield said or felt or whatever. What we need to worry about is, how's he doing right now? And he seems to be doing better, playing better, and happier with this coach. We don't need to make a big deal out of this.
I was going to say, the whole discourse of, he's, just everyone's looking for an opportunity to jump on players, and the season's hard enough. Can you at least have a real reason to do it instead of just making crap up because you're bored and your friend got fired? And like I said, we're not going to name names or point people in the direction. Everyone who has been paying attention knows exactly who it is. And I just don't have time for that. I'm not going to want to put up with that at all. It's just lazy, and it's bad, and it's not journalism. It's just throwing people under the bus, and truly do not need that. For my other down this week, I think the officiating's been a little suspect. I watched the Sabres game, and it wasn't great across the board. I'm finding it a little hard to be too negative because of everything that's been going on this week. So I'm just going to throw officiating on there because NHL officiating is always suspect at best. Laura, I didn't know if you had any other down to add before we went to our 3 ups for this week.
No, I was actually trying to think of one. So thank you for the convenient officiating one, because it's true. Like, there are a lot of questions. Like, why did that get called on Montreal but not on Columbus? Or, it's or the same thing in the Sabres game or the Caps game. It's definitely, it needs to be better, but everybody already knows that. So let's move to our happy things. 3 up.
Well, for my first one, and I'm going to the AHL for this one, is I have an up for Kevin Poulin and the Laval Rockets. Poulin went 3-0 this week. Huge week. He's done a really good job. He struggled a little bit in the ECHL. Didn't look great when he first got to the AHL, and he settled in really nicely. He's been absolutely massive for Jean-Francois Houle in net there. Primeau's obviously got the net. We talked about that in our previous segment, but it does a lot of good to have a trustworthy backup that, hey, if we have to rest Primeau, or God forbid he gets hurt or anything like that, Kevin Poulin can take over the net. The Rocket are flying. I believe they are 7-3-0 in their last 10 games. They are up to 3rd in the North Division. It is a very good time to be a member of the Rocket. It's the only time where you can be demoted from the NHL and be promoted at the same time, because they're doing a lot of this winning without some of their centers and some of their regular pieces still. So a really impressive run, backstopped by Kevin Poulin in net.
I think my first up is going to be Kent Hughes. And Obviously, if you are in my proximity at all, whether I've spoken to you or whether you're online or anything, you know how happy I am about Marty. Obviously, Martin St. Louis is one of my favorite players, or was one of my favorite players. He's now a coach. Everything that the Canadiens are saying about him has been very positive. Everything I'm hearing out of his mouth has been very, very positive. So I do think that sometimes you have to make a difficult decision. There are currently 3 head coaches on the Montreal Canadiens payroll. Claude Julien, obviously, Dominique Ducharme. It's a bold decision to take a coach that you just extended that took the team to a Stanley Cup final the previous season and replace him in the middle of a season. It's not an easy decision to make. And not only that, we knew that Jeff Gorton, potentially with conversations with Jeff Molson, the preference at that point was not to have a coaching change in the middle of the season, and Kent Hughes took that step. So obviously it's positive. Like, until the honeymoon's over, I'm just going to keep saying positive things. We've had so little to be happy about this season that I think every time I hear something that I love from either one of the players or the coach, I'm just going to be really, really excited about it. Every time I see the Canadiens execute a play that they weren't able to before, or do positive things on the ice, I'm going to be really excited about it. And that's my first up. Sorry, I'm rambling, Scott. I'm taking up all of your time.
Well, I'm just gonna agree with you on that one. But my last up for this week, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna agree on this, is that Cole Caulfield isn't up this week. He should have had 3 goals, but they took one away because Tyler Toffoli was a half-inch offside, and the NHL is stupid as hell. But the small goals boy is once again scoring small boy goals, and it's great. He looks like an entirely different person. That goal that he scored against the Capitals was like a weight came off of his shoulders, and that confidence came back immediately. And confidence is a funny thing, is that sometimes it only takes a goal, and he's did that. And then in the next one, even though it got wiped out for offsides, he dangled through the defense, shoots, scores in the next game against Columbus, got held off the sheet against the Sabres, but he had what would have probably been a goal, but his stick exploded as he was taking a wide open shot on Craig Anderson. It is what it is. I got to put Cole Caulfield on my up list this week, and I'm only hoping that continues to go up, because not that long ago we were talking about sending him back down to the Rocket and helping him get his confidence back, and he just went ahead and did it at the NHL level anyways.
Yeah, I mean, it's a breath of fresh air. I'm so excited to see him and how happy he looks, and it's gonna be a good season, good rest of season for him. I think. I don't think he's gonna score 40 goals, because that would entail him scoring more than 1 goal in multiple games. But I don't know. I try not to think about what would have been if he had been played correctly earlier in the season.
Yeah, and as always, that is 3 Up, 3 Down. We do that every Monday when we kind of recap the week that was and take a look at who we liked, who we didn't like. And that's actually going to wrap up our show. As always, you can find us on Twitter at @LO_Canadiens. Please make sure you subscribe on YouTube. We hit 500 subscribers. My co-host has to eat something disgusting instead of me for once. You can follow Laura at The Active Stick, and you can follow me at Scott Matla. And when you're done making us your first listen of the day, please go check out Locked On Bets, where Lee Sterling and your boy Q have all the betting info that you're going to need to win all your bets. It is free and available wherever you find your podcasts.